Palantir will report their Q3 earnings this Thursday on the 2nd of November before the market opens. So in this video, we need to talk about exactly what you need to look for and what sort of things coming out of earnings would be positive for both the company and the stock. So first up, the timings of the earnings. For the past 3 quarters, Palantir have reported their earnings post-market close. But this time around, they are doing it before the market opens. And this is causing quite a mixed reaction. Some people are saying that this is a really bullish signal for the company and for the stock. And other people are saying, hang on a minute, this could be really bad news. I'm really not that concerned. I understand that people are freaking out that they've made a change and now they're doing it pre-market when normally they do it post-market. But to be honest, I think this is just a scheduling, timing sort of thing. I don't think it needs to be a big deal at all. I think Alex Karp right now is in the UK because he's here for the AI summit that's happening in London. And of course, he's just had that BBC interview, which was quite a shambles, honestly. I made a whole video about that. It's getting lots of traction, so definitely go and check that video out. But yeah, he's here in the UK, and maybe the NHS announcement. We'll see. So he's here in the UK is what I'm saying. And during pre-market for you US people is the UK's daytime, but post-market is actually like UK's bedtime. So it literally could be as innocent as that, and it makes sense with the timings. So just before we talk about what exactly it is you should look for in these Q3 earnings and what I'm looking for, I realized that I often mention my Patreon and my Discord, but I never really go into detail about what actually goes on over there. So I'm quickly going to do that. So when you join the Patreon, which is £3 a month or the equivalent wherever you are, so it's literally like 10p a day and you can cancel at any time, cheaper than a cup of coffee, you get access to the Patreon and the Discord. On the Patreon, you will get posts. So in those posts, you'll get a weekly portfolio update from me. So every single week on a Saturday, usually, I will put out a portfolio update and I'll tell you guys how my portfolio is doing, the total returns, what stocks have gone up, what stocks have gone down that week, why that's happened and why that is important, what I am doing because of that news, and just some general market commentary. On top of that, you will get a post every single time I buy or sell any position. And that also goes on Discord. So let's say that I see an opportunity out there, Palantir stock falls, I am buying. I will let you guys know exactly how much I'm buying, at what average price, stuff like that as soon as it happens. Then on the Discord, which you'll also get access to, we've basically got a community of people that are really interested in talking about investing. We talk every single day on there. There's loads of different channels. So you can there's a Palantir channel where we talk about Palantir, obviously, a Tesla channel, a general investing channel, a UK dividend stock channel, loads of stuff about investing. And then on top of that, we've got other channels. So we've got a recommendation channel, a book club channel, a self-improvement channel. There's loads going on there. I've also started a Q&A channel as well. So I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give financial advice. But the idea of that channel is that if you've got any questions, no questions are dumb at all, about investing, about stocks, what does this piece of news mean for this stock? What are you doing based on this news? Stuff like that. You can put it in there. And then someone in the community can either go in and answer if they feel comfortable to do so, or I will schedule out some time each and every week to go in and answer any questions. If I think the question is really, really good for everyone to know, I might even end up making a video. So anyway, let's jump back into the video, but I just wanted to let you guys know exactly what you get on Patreon. And if you do want to join, I'll leave a link in the description below. I hope to talk to some of you guys on there soon. So one of the perhaps most important things I'm going to be looking for coming out of these earnings, maybe the most important, at least one of them, is whether or not Palantir declare gap profitability. Being gap profitable is obviously a very good thing, but it goes a little bit deeper here for Palantir. For the previous 3 quarters, they have been gap profitable. This is the 4th quarter, if this happens on earnings on Thursday, that they would be gap profitable. And that is important because that allows them to be eligible for the S&P 500. So for a company, a public company, to be in the S&P 500, you need to tick off basically a few different eligibility criteria. One of them is that you have 4 consecutive quarters of gap profitability. Palantir are currently sitting at 3, and this quarter would be their 4th. If they are able to show that, they are then eligible for the S&P 500 index. Now, that doesn't mean that they instantly and definitely get to be part of the S&P 500. It may take some time, but the important thing is that they are then eligible. So why is this so important? Well, firstly, it's a significant achievement for any company, any public company that becomes eligible for the S&P 500 inclusion. It sort of serves as a sign of credibility, a stamp of recognition, and global visibility. Leading on from that, it can help attract investors. So I'm not necessarily talking just about me and you as retail investors, but more importantly, it brings in more institutional ownership and money. So what I mean by institutional ownership is the likes of Vanguard, BlackRock, mutual funds, pension funds, all of these different things. They normally have criteria that in order to invest in something, they need that company to be in the S&P 500. So if Palantir are in the S&P 500, it opens them up to that. But also, a lot of these companies obviously purchase S&P 500 ETFs and index funds, just like I do, maybe you do. So just naturally, by Palantir being in the S&P 500, they are getting more investors into their company because they're now part of an ETF and stuff like that. And of course, what happens when the demand goes up and more people are buying your stock? Well, the stock price normally goes up as well. But moving on from that, a really important thing that I'm going to be looking for is growth in the customer numbers and in revenue. And then we've got some really important commentary that we should all be listening out for, which I'll talk about later on in this video. Q2 had a revenue growth year over year of 13%. So ideally, I would like to see that Q3 actually has a higher growth than that. And the signs are there for that to happen. We've heard about lots of new customers, lots of new contracts, expansion and renewals of current contracts. We've heard about the AIP demand being absolutely insane. They've been doing these AIP boot camps, which have apparently been, really, really good. They've been expanding into pretty much all sectors now, and then they've been growing globally on top of that. And then just the AI demand around the world and the optimism and excitement for AI seems to be there too, as we've already known about this AI boom that we've been seeing. So it feels very positive. It definitely feels like we may see revenue growth better than the last quarter and definitely going in the right direction. Then moving on to customer numbers. We saw growth during the last earnings of 8% between consecutive quarters and a year-over-year growth of 38%. I would like to see this continuing to grow. Now, for me, it doesn't have to be absolutely crazy numbers, but I definitely want to see steady growth in the upward direction. I am expecting commercial client growth to be seen because Alex Karp has made it very, very clear time and time again in numerous interviews, numerous press releases that the demand for AI and the demand for Palantir in particular is at an all-time high, and it's absolutely insane. So we should expect to see those numbers come into earnings. We've heard that Palantir are in talks with hundreds and hundreds of businesses to get AIP in particular deployed into their organization. But then, of course, we know that right now, AIP is not actually monetized. So it could be that they've got a lot of new clients, but these clients are receiving free services. They are potential paying customers for the future, but right now, they are not actually paying Palantir. So they are not really considered true commercial clients. So just bear that in mind when you're seeing the numbers on the screen from these earnings, because it may not be a true reflection of what we may see moving forward. Because like we keep saying, they're not currently monetizing AIP. They're going for a slightly different strategy here. When they do decide to switch that on, if the demand is really, really as good as they say it is, we could see some very, very interesting earnings in the future indeed. Another key metric that I'm going to be really looking for, and it's one that you do have to do a little bit of work to actually find in the presentation, is the net dollar retention. This net dollar retention basically measures how much recurring revenue a company keeps from its current existing clients. And it's really important because it demonstrates to us investors how well they are able to keep and grow their current client base. So it's no good for a company to just get loads of new people in, loads of new customers, but actually the current clients are not very happy and they're leaving. You want to see both, don't you? You want to see the current clients being very happy and returning year after year to Palantir and expanding what they actually purchase from Palantir over time. And then on top of that, you want to be bringing in those new customers, because those two things combined are how we see the really, really, really good growth. Palantir's net retention is very good. It's over 100%. So put simply, they are still growing within their current client base And then we know on top of that, they are gaining new clients. That's a real positive. However, it has been going down. So last quarter, it was 110%. But in 2022, it was 115%. Am I worried about it going down? Not really. I would be concerned if we saw it below 100% in these earnings. So I'm expecting it to be above 100. I'll be happy. I think it's healthy if it's in that sort of range. If AIP's demand and performance is really as good as we are being promised, we should expect to see this net retention go up in the future. Obviously, right now, like I keep saying, AIP is not monetized. But ideally, what we should see is clients wanting AIP enough that then gets monetized. And then outside of AIP, they are looking at how else Palantir can actually help them. Just a little side point on this. We've heard a lot about current clients renewing and expanding their contracts with Palantir. Palantir is a very sticky business, especially on the government side. It gets really integrated and it's really difficult to actually move to a different provider. And on top of that, Palantir are providing such value that people don't really want to go anywhere else. They're very, very happy with Palantir. And because of that, we time and time again see people expanding and renewing their contracts. So this again is really good for net retention. Then we've got to talk about commercial versus government sides of Palantir. For quite a while, people were getting a bit worried that Palantir were becoming over-reliant on their government side because this was seeing a big growth, but the commercial side wasn't seeing such a big growth. So because of this, Palantir have sort of pushed towards growing their commercial side a little bit more. To be honest, I don't really mind at this stage which area of Palantir grows the quickest. Ideally, over time, both areas will become massive players and they will both continue to grow, perhaps at different rates, but they'll both be as important as each other. But right now, we know that there is a really, really big push towards AI, which makes me think that businesses, organizations, the commercial side of Palantir's potential clients will be thinking about how they can utilize AI in their business to help them in terms of their top line and bottom line, or depending on what sort of business they are, Palantir can really, really help them become more efficient in their data usage. Which then leads me to think that maybe the commercial side will see a bigger push, but then I start thinking, okay, well, the macroeconomic situation could come into play here. Inflationary pressures may mean that companies are a little bit tighter with their R&D spending. And then I start thinking that we have the geopolitical situations happening. So that may mean that the government side is actually growing quicker. So we don't really know. But I don't really mind at this stage is the point. I just want to see the business move in the right direction, basically, wherever that comes from. And then talking about over-reliance, we can stretch this out into the top 20 customers of Palantir. So in the last earnings, we saw that the top 20 Palantir customers revenue growth was about 15%. This is good, right? Growth is good. It's really good to see that those top 20 customers revenue is growing by 15%. Great. But the problem here is that the question of, is Palantir getting too dependent, too over-reliant on these big customers? Because what would happen if 1, 2, God forbid, 5 of these clients pulled out and decided they didn't want to work with Palantir anymore after their contract ended? Well, this would really, really impact Palantir's revenue because of how much of Palantir's revenue is from just these top 20 clients. So I would definitely like to see more diversification here. I think that it would be a more stable and safer business structure if we did see that happening. But then again, Palantir are really in their early stages. And when you are building a business and you are growing, naturally at the early stages, you will have those really key clients that are bringing in most of your revenue. It's just kind of the way it happens. Moving outside of the metrics and more into other things that I'm expecting to hear, I would quite like some information about that $1 billion buyback scheme that they announced last time. This buyback scheme is not something that they have to execute straight away or actually even follow through with at all, I don't believe. The repurchase program has no end date, no minimum purchase requirements. So Palantir are kind of free to make the analysis of the market themselves and decide when and if they actually want to go ahead with that. But I would really like to hear some more information about this. When are they expecting to do it? How much are they expecting? How regularly? For example, are they expecting to purchase back a certain amount of shares each quarter for a period of however many quarters. We don't really have any insight into what they're actually planning to do here. I'd also like to hear some more information on how the current geopolitical macroeconomic situation is impacting Palantir. Unfortunately, a company like this does tend to do well in times of conflict. And then on top of that, I would really like, perhaps the most important commentary for me, would be to hear about the monetization strategy that Palantir has and when that's going to happen for AIP. How the AIP boot camps are coming along, what they expect the AIP demand to be going forward, how they are capitalizing on that. Maybe we'll even hear about when they actually plan to monetize AIP. That would be incredibly bullish. If they came out on Thursday and said, okay, we're going to start monetizing AIP as of Q2 2024, whatever it may be, that I think would be a very, very bullish sign. I don't think we're going to get details quite at that granular level in terms of a date, but I do want some commentary here because I completely understand their strategy, show them the value, then when we switch it on, things will look really, really good. I think they're doing the right thing there, but I would really, really like to hear when they're actually planning to monetize this. It's important to point out here actually that these things take time. They don't always show up on revenue and customer numbers straight away. And a lot of the Palantir bears and Wall Street as well, they don't always like this. But I think people that understand Palantir and know how valuable it is, and it will continue to be, understand the potential of this stock in the future. And then we're just looking for some general commentary on the guidance and the targets for the future. If Palantir, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that are in it, they know more about the demand than we know. They're seeing it firsthand. They're seeing it at the time that it happens in real time. If they know that the demand is really, really good, then they will be expecting higher numbers in the future. That's clear. So if we hear that they are targeting very, very large numbers, the guidance has gone up, whatever, I think that's normally going to be quite a bullish sign. But I also don't necessarily expect that we'll hear really clear numbers. We may just hear more of a general commentary. You know, AIP is really in demand, AI is really in demand, things like that, rather than actual numbers. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We may be pleasantly surprised. I actually ran a poll on X, on my X account, about how people are feeling going into these earnings. So I'll throw it on the screen now. I won't look at it in real time because I'm sure it will change. I looked at it just now and it was more in the majority of people feeling good, but some people were definitely feeling worried. Let me know where you fit in the comments below about how you're feeling going into these earnings. And then talking about stock price. Right. What I will say from the off is there is no predicting this. I would like to sit here and say that if they get good earnings, the stock price will go up. If they get bad earnings, the stock price will go down. But it is not that simple. We've seen from this earnings season in particular that companies have had very, very, very good earnings, yet the stock price has fallen after those earnings. You know, just don't be too surprised either way. I think that it's clear that the stock will be very volatile both before these earnings and after these earnings, but I don't think it's that clear as to which way this will go. I don't really mind, like I said time and time before, what happens with the stock price after earnings. If the earnings are good, and I think that, you know, my conviction and my reasonings for investing into this company is still there, and then the stock price drops, then great, I'll buy more. If it goes up, then great. I'll probably end up dollar cost averaging in because I'm trying to accumulate shares of this company over the long time. I think the point here is try and avoid putting too much of your emotions, good or bad, into the volatility of the stock price. Unless, of course, the earnings come out and they've somewhat changed your conviction and your strategy. In that case, then obviously consider what you want to do next. If there's anything that I've missed that people should be looking for in these earnings, drop them in the comments below. Thank you for everyone that leaves nice comments, likes these videos, subscribes to the channel and supports this channel. It really does mean everything to me, so thank you again. And I'll see you next time in another video.